Hello and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the dark side of predictions, also the light side of predictions as well to round it out. But mostly I want to focus on how we can look at predictions and work with predictions to understand ourselves more and understand greater aspects of the world and of our life while not falling into the addictive traps and the almost reliant traps that we can find ourselves in, relying on predictions, being addicted to predictions, and also being really attuned at what is happening within our body, within our energetic self when we are tuning into predictions of the future. Now, we are in a time right now, things are going to keep getting intense. Things need to change. We're in a time where I think it's pretty evident that we're going to go through more rocky times. But if you are on this journey and if you are on the path of self-mastery and self-discovery and self-actualization, then using your inner compass to navigate this within yourself by tuning in is going to be your superpower. Relying on external predictions and forecasts are going to distract you from yourself if you are aware of the distractive aspect or nature of yourself when looking at predictions. Now, predictions can be astrological, they can be psychic, they can be even through economic or political landscapes. When we rely on predictions so heavily, we are disempowering ourselves from making the choices that we need to make for our individual selves first. We all have different stories, and to fall into a bucket of a generalized prediction is, it's not bettering us. It's not helping us be more empowered, more intuitive, more, I would say, conscious around our choices and deliberate with our actions. When we fall into the trap or can fall into the trap of relying on predictions or becoming very focused on predictions for guidance, we lose part of ourselves in the process. Now, I've watched predictions, I've watched tarot readers, I've watched predictions. I don't watch them anymore, but I have in the past. I now, this is just speaking from my own experience, I now rely mostly on how I feel. And I'm sure I've mentioned this before in other videos. It is so important and so crucial for us to tune in, for us to understand how our feelings are processing life, tuning into our body, how our body is responding to life, tuning into our intuition and strengthening that so that we can use our intuition as our internal guidance system. We have everything right here. And guess what? We all have the ability to be psychic. We all have the ability to get a glimpse of where the future is going, where humanity is going, where we ourselves are going. All we need to do is just tune in. That's it. Some have a little bit more of a gift. Some have different types of gifts, but we all have the ability to become our own oracle, to become our own guidance system. When we become addicted to forecasts, now this can be for entertainment. This can be for fear-based, you're really worried about the future, where things are going. When we are distracting ourselves from ourselves, now you can even look at predictions as being a form of distraction if it is utilized in an unhealthy way, if we're leaning on predictions too much. Now, it's very important when you're watching predictions or when you're taking predictions in to be aware of what's happening within yourself. Is it activating fear? Is it activating panic? Is it activating worst case scenario type of feelings and sensations and beliefs within your system? It's very important to be aware of what is happening when you are watching predictions. And then the other part is going to be how reliant are you on predictions? Because yes, this can be another form of distraction. Just like anything, it removes us from ourself. You are a multi-dimensional being. When you give your power away to predictions, then you are lessening the connection within yourself. You are lessening the ability for you to tune in with your own intuition, with your senses, and with your vision. You're also tuning out from trusting and allowing yourself to feel into your own rhythm, allowing yourself to align with the universe, allowing for yourself to feel patience and what that means for you. Every step along the way within the present moment, I should say, is allowing for you to develop more if you tune in. Tuning into the present moment, into the stillness, into the very here and now is going to give you your answers on a very deep and expansive level. So the dark side of predictions can be where we are addicted to them, where we need to tune in and search for predictions to give us the answers that we feel that we can't find within ourselves when we can. This is going to require an exercise for us to tune in and to understand that we hold the power within ourselves to craft our reality in whatever way, shape, or form. But if we are pulling ourselves away into predictions of any kind, we are simply detaching more from ourselves. So if there are addictive behaviors being triggered, it could represent behavioral patterns of being constantly pulled towards certain channels or certain outlets for predictions. There could be also almost an obsessive reliance on external sources rather than tuning in to one's intuition. Predictions can also activate fear, which can become very addictive. So the fear response mechanism could be panic, could be talking about it with friends, sharing the information, being very drawn to this prediction, media, conversations, almost in a way of becoming very, very sucked in to the material. It can also create a preoccupation of what if, rather than being in the present moment. What if XYZ happens? What if the worst case scenario happens? When we start to look into the future, we are losing the present moment right there. And this is also the difficulty. And I recorded a video on the ego and fear versus our higher self when we are separated from the present moment, which is where our connection with our higher self resides. We are going to be either in the past or the future. The ego will split. We will split ourselves into looking at the past, living in the past of regrets and victimization and woulda, coulda, shoulda, or we'll put ourselves in the future and start to think of the worst case scenario when the future has not been written yet. And this is so important to remember that the way we experience life is based on here, is based on our perception, is based on the connection with our higher self or the connection with our fear or our fear-based ego, which I highly recommend watching the video that I just posted on the ego, fear, and higher self. When we are connected with the very present moment, meaning being in stillness, connecting with our body, connecting with our senses, connecting with our heart, our emotions, our mind, our energetic self, we are tuning in. And then when we connect with our heart and connect with the peace within ourselves and the stillness within ourselves, we are connecting with our higher self. And then going even higher, we will gain messages and information from our higher self that will serve us on an individual level in the capacity of our highest good and greatest potential. So we can choose to tune in here, or we can choose to tune out there. And there has been a great obsession with being focused on the future. When everyone has a different story, everyone has a different experience. Even if you look into astrology or even numerology or tarot, whatever you subscribe to, your story is going to be unique than everyone else's, more unique than everyone else's. So you have your own story. And I'm not saying to not watch any of these predictions. I know great astrologers and psychic mediums, and there is a universal conversation with a lot of us actually about this very topic. Is it can be very dangerous, slippery slope, relying on predictions as your guidance when you have the guidance within you. Predictions are good as a little bit of a benchmark, which I will go into the positive attributes as well and how to work with predictions in your favor. But as I mentioned, there could be also a challenge if you are watching a certain, say, astrology, for example, and you're looking at the predictions for your future, and it forms a certain story of how you want it to be when it shows up in the way that it's meant to be, not based in the story that you want it to be, is going to create a disappointment, is going to create conflict, and is also removing you from trust and alignment with the universe and with your higher self. So we cannot specifically rely on these predictions as part of our reality, as our truth, because it's going to, again, as I mentioned, resonate with everyone differently. Now, I remember when I was really young, living in the country, we had a pretty decent lifestyle. We had also a lot of food that was stored for a rainy day because my parents constantly were in fear of worst case scenario, apocalyptic, end of the world, losing water, losing electricity. Now, I've talked about this before, and it is good to be prepared. It's good to be aware of what could happen. It is very good, actually. It's good to be aware and conscious, but not from fear, just in a way of preparation and being responsible. However, when I was young, it got out of control completely. And as a young child and being very empathic and very sensitive, I could not help but notice the fear that this was perpetuating in the people I saw it coming from. So I saw it at a very young age of what this did to people and how unhealthy and toxic it was, and how unhealthy and toxic it was to the people around them, not even just within ourselves. Our behaviors are an outwardly response to what's happening within ourselves, and everyone becomes affected by what's happening within here. So we have to be responsible for what is happening in here and how we are projecting it outward and how other people are becoming affected. This is the ripple effect of, and also truthfully, the big, I feel, task that we are given right now in this period of time is to be responsible for ourselves, to be responsible for how we're behaving, how we're feeling, how we're reacting to certain things and the choices that we make. And don't feel bad if you are loving predictions and find yourself going to them. I, once in a while, like I said, I will as well, every once in a while, not so much anymore. But it's a good exercise of self-observation to take note of how much you are relying on them and how are you feeling when you are watching them. If you're finding yourself in fear and worried, turn it off. Do not go back to them if that is how you are feeling. Trust me, it is a trap. And it is going to pull you more away from your self-empowerment and your ability to tune in and trust and to drop into being in alignment in the present moment with your higher self. Please remember that the future is not written yet. Nothing is set in stone. We have the ability to change everything. Now, this is also going to go into the shift of reality. When we choose to give our energy to difficult situations, when we choose to be involved in harsh political statements and political unfoldings in the world, if we choose to put our energy and focus on the war, if we choose to be critical and judgmental towards others, if we choose to be in fear, we are giving our energy and our time and ourselves to those more difficult entities and experiences of life. We are perpetuating those experiences. We are creating those experiences, and we are being part of that story. Just imagine if we all started to remove ourselves from those stories one by one by one, there would not be a story anymore. We create those stories. We create the fear-based stories. We create the difficulties in the world. We create the war. We create the stress. We create that because we give it our time and energy. And so this is a simple exercise of removing yourself from these difficult experiences, stories, predictions, of course, and dropping into the present moment, connecting with your higher self and saying that you want a different life, you want a different experience, you want to change the world or change yourself or change your community or start small even. And that's the best place to start. So the positive attributes for predictions, how you can work with predictions in a positive and healthy way, is to use predictions for growth, to see predictions as an opportunity for growth and perhaps positive change, or for you to be prepared in some way, in a healthy way, to maybe support others or to maybe even grow and advance in your own way based on where you feel the future might be going or where you feel you might be going based on some of these predictions. Also, to step into the ability for co-creation. If you are aware of some of the predictions, it can give you an opportunity to become more empowered with your ability to make it happen. So predictions can tell us one side of the story, but we are probably, I would say, the other side, but the majority of the story, because we are creating it based on our thoughts, based on our emotions, based on our decisions, based on our words, based on choices that we make every day. And so we can grab hold of some of these opportunities and amplify them or create them and make them happen. If we are not doing our inner work, if we are not paying attention to ourselves, we will lose some of these opportunities, and we will also maybe even sabotage some of the great opportunities that may come our way. So it is important for us to grab hold of some of these predictions that may align or resonate, and then work on it in the healthiest and most empowering way possible. Predictions can also allow us to be more discerning, to take our power back and to understand what resonates with us and what doesn't. That will also strengthen your intuition and sharpen your inner guidance to know where to invest your time and energy. So forecasts and predictions are simple guidelines. They are not absolute. I have seen many predictions from years ago, and the majority of them have not come true. Some of them did, but you almost have to think of this. How much time are people spending on predictions when they could be spending that time investing in themselves, doing something meaningful and productive, working on a better future for themselves, creating greater change within themselves? Just think about the time investment into some of these areas. Now, just like anything, this can become very addictive. We can spend a lot of time invested in watching predictions and watching forecasts and being glued to some of them. But think of how much time is even wasted. That's not really productive time. That could be more productive investing that time into yourself, and therefore, of course, heightening your own intuition and your own visionary traits and opportunities to connect with the future of your reality, and thus, of course, also the world. So to wrap things up, treat predictions as an opportunity for growth, treat predictions as an opportunity for maybe some fun and some enjoyment and play. Try not to hang your hat on predictions, and especially understand how much time you're investing into and what is the emotional, physical, mental, or energetic response that you are gaining. Is it healthy, or is it causing some fear or maybe some apprehension? Be very, very aware, because this also has a very strong correlation with television and the news and what we can find ourselves consumed in that domain. So I hope this video offered you some guidance when you need it the most. Again, predictions are not bad. I know some amazing people out there who are delivering incredible, empowering, and helpful information. It's just up for us to be discerning within ourselves and knowing that we are the creators of our reality, plain and simple. And it's just more important now than ever to be very mindful of where we're giving our energy and what we're getting back as return. Things are going to get pretty crazy. We're already in a very, very interesting time, but we are in a time where we can change the outcome more now than ever. And it's going to be up for us to change it by changing the relationship within ourselves first. All right, so I'm wishing you all the best on your journey and beyond. If you would like to find more content, join me over at Substack at the Odyssey of Self, and I hope to see you there. Take care.